I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come here. I know it's a little hectic for you. The building's kind of big. You were down at B3?
That's right. Apparently.
But you came here the day before, right? You came here yesterday, you said.
I was there on Thursday. I came here.
And you went down to B3 then, same place?
And I asked someone just to confirm, because I know it's early in the morning.
Right.
I just wanted to confirm and be prompt and punctual. And they said, yeah, this is B1. And I said, great, I'm all set.
But it wasn't. That's B3.
It wasn't.
That's B3.
So when I'm standing there, I said, oh, 7:03. Well, everyone's running a few minutes late. So about 7:05, I started thinking,
maybe he's not coming. Oh, you're thinking I'm not coming, right?
Right. I was thinking that you were coming.
I've been here. You know what time I got here? Actually, I got here at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Because the gate opens at. Oh no, I came here. I'm sorry. Yeah, 5. Because the gate opens at 5:45. So I'm the first one with their car up in front. And then I listened for an hour to tapes and stuff like that. Then I came down, set up, as you can see, I set up everything. And I'm waiting for you. I came down, I said, he's probably gonna come early, because since you wrote me yesterday and said that you
That's right.
be here 7. And I said, I guess it's right, not 7:30, 7. Because sometimes I tell people 7:30, but you said 7, I said, right, okay. So I get down there at 6:50. And I said, okay, it's coming, boom, boom, boom. And there's a few minutes. I knew you'd be early, so I figured, okay, it's 6:55. The brother's gonna be here on time. Then it's 7, and then I start getting into the stereotypes. Okay, so he's on colored people time. Right, no. But honestly, Greg, something inside, because you wrote me.
That's right.
I said, I don't think he's not gonna be here. But then when it became 7:30, because I was talking to people as they were coming in, I said, this is only the second time I've been stood up. He's not gonna be here. Then one of the staff came and said, Mr. Lee, your guest just was downstairs. And I said, look, this brother was here the whole time. And I've been sitting up there and came clean. My brother's up here clean ready. Look at this. You came ready for this podcast. So tell me, Greg, where were you born?
Trenton, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
How long did you live there?
My entire life, until the university, to 84. Or 1980, I graduated high school.
1980. Do you have siblings?
No, everyone has passed away, but I did have a sister.
How many years difference between you and her?
4 years.
4 years. She was 4 years older than you?
Yes.
Same mom and dad?
Same mom and dad.
Your parents are passed too?
Just as recent, within the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Who?
Yeah.
The mom or dad?
My mom passed for second. She passed just before COVID blew up.
Okay.
In 2000.
Right.
Yeah.
And your father?
And dad, it was 2017.
Did they stay married the whole time?
Whole time. 55 years they were married.
And they only were married once to each other?
Once. That's the only one.
You know that's unusual for anybody, basically.
The house where I grew up, we lived in for the entire 55 years.
How old were you when you left?
Well, I went to the conservatory 1980. I was 18 years old.
So wait, so you were a prodigy? Did you grow up a piano prodigy?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. We're gonna get into that. All right. Conservatory. You went there. Wait, either one of your parents musicians?
None. Not professional, but they were. Mom gave me the inspiration because she used to play Motown every Friday when she was cleaning the house. And how it began was that, music was always involved, either in church, as you know, in the black community.
What religion?
Baptist.
Baptist?
Yeah.
But did they have instruments in church? They sing?
No, just singing in organ.
And organ.
And tambourine.
And the tambourine. Yeah, the chicka, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
So what happened, Mom, she would play this Motown, Marvin Gaye, the whole works, Stevie. And we had this small little organ that Mom bought for my sister, but she never touched it. Right. So I would start playing with the radio in the records.
Okay.
And my mom said, oh, you really like to play, would you like to take lessons?
How old were you?
At that time, probably about 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was private, but then I went through other instruments in school because they didn't have, playing an organ or something at that point. And then I just went through various instruments, all through junior high school and high school, from bass, clarinet, trumpet. And at the time, I was still actively playing the sports.
What sports?
Well, baseball was first,
okay.
And I played that through Little League and made the All-Star team with Babe Ruth at 15. So I was pretty good, but music and, running track.
Okay.
I think the discipline gave me, wrestling gave me the really discipline as an athlete.
When did you start doing wrestling?
Junior high school.
Junior high school, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me this, what kind of work did your father do? What was he?
Industrial mechanic.
Industrial mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he worked for a company until he retired.
And how old was he when he passed?
He was 82.
Well, you had a pretty good life. That's not
good
bad
life.
first time.
Yeah.
Was he ever in the military?
None.
Not at all.
No,
So he missed
not
that.
at all.
So he's right.
Yeah, he was right on that cuff that he didn't have to
You have to go in.
Yeah.
What about your mother? How old was she when she passed?
81.
They both had pretty good lives.
Yeah.
Did they live pretty healthy lives the whole time?
Whole time, yeah.
Oh, that's good. And your sister, you said she passed too?
She passed at 34 years old. And she had this thing, I think they were calling it at that time, walking pneumonia.
And it just took her out.
Yeah, I don't know if she was accessible to colds. I think at a baby she had gotten pneumonia or something, but she wasn't sick her entire life. It was just, I still remember, it was a very icy winter back in the early 90s. We're having these ice storms. And she says to me, Greg, I just can't seem to get rid of this cold.
Was she single? Still single, not married?
Engaged at the time. So last time it was around spring. I'm living in California at the time. And she says, I can't get rid of this cold. So a few days later, my dad says, oh, your sister is in the hospital. But he said, you don't have to come home. She's going to be okay. Don't waste the money and fly home. She's going to be all right. And within 3 days later, my mom called me and she just says, you probably know why I'm calling. And I said, yes and no, because I didn't want to say. She says, we lost Jackie this morning. And I said, oh, okay.
What? Were you guys close?
Yeah, we're a close family. So she never told me that she died. She just said, we lost Jackie. She says, well, get yourself together, give me your flight information, and we'll pick you up. And that's the point. I was living in Los Angeles, and after going to the funeral and seeing my parents, I went down to her. She was living in Delaware. They have to clean up this. And my parents were out of it. And that's when I decided I should relocate. And I moved back home from Los Angeles to their home in New Jersey, and stayed there for 1.5 years just to make sure that they were going to be
because
okay.
they were really.
Oh, they were out of it. They were out of it.
Their first.
Yeah.
Their first daughter.
So after they recovered, I finally started looking at
How old were you at that time?
About 35.
You're married?
Still single at the time.
Still single.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when they recovered, I finally moved out and I said, I'm going to probably start looking at places in New York City, but didn't want to live in New York City.
Why? You knew it from a kid all the way up. That's all you knew, really, right?
Yeah, but I love space.
Okay.
And with a grand piano, having a car, I just wanted to hear birds in the morning.
Okay. Okay.
And just, chill and be able to have, relaxed time. So I went to Westchester. Very accessible. 30 minutes north. You can take Metro North coming down in the city. And that was perfect, So I got busy because when I moved back, I went from palm trees to skyscrapers overnight. And I finally was working at Windows on the World. One day it hit me and I'm looking up and I said...
That's the trade building, right? The Twin Towers.
Yeah, I was working there. And I said, Jesus Christ, how did I end up from palm trees and I'm looking at the two towers and I'm standing here. But I never had a problem finding jobs. Mm-hmm. Old school, you wake up early and you had my, nice portfolio and resume, and at that time tapes, and I put a suit on and go right to the agencies and I'm here in town, what do you have?
Let's get back to when you were a little kid. Elementary school, what kind of kid were you? Were you more academic or were you more physical?
Both. I think the subjects that I enjoyed and I did well.
What were those subjects?
I love science. I almost went that way.
Okay.
Because my mom, I guess, from that side of the brain, because she was in the medical field.
Okay.
You know, pharmacist.
Did she work as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She was a nurse up until I was born, and then she went back to school and went to pharmacy. So she started working at the same hospital as a pharmacist.
That you were born in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the same city. I was born,
city.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so elementary school, you knew you liked science, you're into that. Then what happened in junior high school? Were you playing piano already by now? Or were you still playing around with different
organ.
instruments?
I was organ, but many instruments. Because at school, you know, I was an instrumentalist mostly. You know, the piano was always private lessons.
Okay.
But I was playing trumpet and bass clarinet and stuff like that. So it wasn't until high school that I had to start judging where I'm going to go. Because now I'm playing sports also, running track and wrestling. And, you know, you get ready for conservatory auditions, you need to start prioritizing. So as a junior, I stopped all sports. And the coaches were, what do you mean you're not going to? You're a varsity now, athlete.
Right.
It could be captain or whatever, and you're saying you're not gonna. And I said, you know, I'm going into music, and I need to practice that.
No, what grade were you in when you decided to do this? 11th?
11th. That's when you start looking at universities.
Wait. Now, had you had your accent by that time?
Oh yeah, the accent happened in. I was in the 7th grade. I was 13.
But people thought because you cut your little finger, you cut your index finger.
That's right.
In a lawnmower.
That's right.
And the tip of it was cut off, right?
That's right.
And they thought you'd never play again the piano.
I don't think they thought that.
Well, that's how it's written up. Okay, that's somebody sensationalizing it. All right, that's what I read.
Well, it was interesting because my mom, being in the hospital, she called this guy who was a surgeon, that was a plastic surgeon. He asked me, you know, you have two options. We can put the tip back on, but you're going to lose the sensitivity. Or we can snip where the bone and pull the tendons over, and you'll still have sensitivity. And I wanted for option B, I wanted to have full sensitivity.
Which you do have.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it took the therapy on it, it took at least 2 years of therapy.
So you were 14, 15?
It took a long time, because for many years I couldn't throw a baseball or anything, because when you're stretching, people don't know, you're stretching all the tendons.
Okay.
So everything was painful.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
And I don't think I ever used that I was depressed, but what I think the spiritual awakening was at the time I started therapy, right after the accident. And I'm coming just with a Band-Aid on it. I'm kind of, sitting there depressed and thinking, why did this happen to me? But then when I look at all the other patients coming in, I mean,
missing an arm,
head all bandaged, and I'm start talking to some of the ladies, and oh, my head went through the windshield, or it was a butcher, he lost it. And I said, man, I'm thankful. I'm blessed. I've only lost the tip end of a finger. It could have been a lot worse. And that's what gave me the motivation to continue and
not just let it go and just do what you're going to do.
Do it. And eventually, after the soreness went away, which was that I would see stars for the first 3 years because it was so sore.
That's painful now.
Yeah, if I touch something, because we never lose spiritually, we are always connected. So I've always felt that the tip was still there.
Oh.
So when you get ready to pick up something,
you miss it. You miss it. Well, that's the phantom limb thing.
That's right.
That's right.
And eventually your mind overstimulates, so you'll know that it's not there. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, if you grab something too hard, you see stars because it's so sore. And you just overcome that, and just like everyone else that I think veterans have lost parts. If there's a will, there's a way, that old saying. And I said, I'm going to play. And the technique is the same, because when I studied classical piano and I went through 4 years conservatory, none of my teachers, you're supposed to do the same exercises that a person with a finger. So it never became a handicap.
But reach doesn't matter so much, because Not really. You
Not
just
necessarily.
compensate. You just
I
compensate.
mean, you compensate.
Speed, probably you have to have a little more speed.
I think it depends on the repertoire. I mean, sometimes if I was heavy classical pianist and playing some of the heavier composers like Rachmaninoff or certain Chopin concertos or something, at that point there might be some difficulty, you know.
Did you find that to be the case?
No, because I never
You never
started
did that.
playing Rachmaninoff to that level.
But you stayed with jazz, right?
I went to jazz.
You went to
eventually.
jazz eventually.
It wasn't until my second semester freshman year when I sat next to a jazz improvisation class.
Did that do it?
And I'm hearing them swinging in the class, and I'm thinking, man, I think I'm in the wrong program.
Because what was yours? More conservative?
I was in we call it music lit. So studying Baroque and classic music and listen to Bach, and I love Bach also, but I hear jazz from next door, and these guys playing along with the Ebersol records, because, that's what they do.
What year are we talking now?
That was 1981.
1981, okay.
Yeah.
So
I finally went to the professor of jazz, and I said, look, I think I'm in the wrong program. I said, I sat next to the jazz improvisation class, and I want to change majors. And he said, Greg, I'm delighted, but I just can't let you into the program. He said, you have to play something. So I pretended. So I go to the piano, and I knew I couldn't play anything. I played a few jazz chords, and then I just gave up, and I said, look, I'm sorry, but I haven't played jazz piano before. But I said, I promise, if you let me into the program, I'm going to work hard. And he looked at me and he says, Greg, I believe you. I'm going to let you in the program.
He could feel it.
And from that point,
you never looked back. How many years has it been?
Over 30 years now. Yeah. Because I think, especially with jazz, it doesn't matter how good one is, it's how well one plays together with one another. And that's at all levels. I mean, you can play with the masters. So your levels should change depending on the level of people you're playing with. And this is what makes great musicians even better. Because, everyone has to play in unison, That's the key.
I just started practicing sax. It's been 5 years, 6 years. But I equate it to someone singing in the shower. Sounds good to me. But everyone passing by is telling me, well, I shut up and just get finished with my shower.
Well, it is a problem.
So I want to play with someone.
Yeah.
Everyone that I talk to about doing this, I know they have their jobs, they're doing what they're doing, but just maybe a day or something. And I did get a chance to do a live, but it was not quite what I was expecting. I was a little bit too much the spotlight.
Right.
It shouldn't have been.
Well, I think, I think it comes down with the comfortability level of who you're working with. Because certain players make one feel more relaxed. Certain situations you're more relaxed. So I think it gets an environmental, part. And if you just like finding the right teacher. I mean, it could be any subject you don't like, but if one finds the right teachers that teaches that, you'll say, oh man, I love it.
That's right. Because you're vibing with that teacher. I mean,
that's right.
It works just
it's
right.
all about, and we didn't realize that, it took me up until probably about 11th or 12th grade that I realized that it doesn't matter what subject one is taken if you don't find the right teacher.
It doesn't matter. It could be something that you really love. Get the wrong teacher. Now I don't love it.
And so much, happens when I remember taking English, how they taught in school. It wasn't until years later, one of my neighbors was taught at the junior high school, and I was for some reason, maybe it was in her class. And man, it was the most exciting class that I had. I mean, I was scoring a B+, A- in the class. And all the other teachers, I would always get C, D+.
Right. Barely getting out of it.
Barely getting out. And putting the same work, but it's the way I think the interpretation and same thing with music.
Okay.
You're finding the right instructor or right members, you're going to find some continuity with the sound.
How long have you been in Japan?
Now, 17 years.
What brought you here in the first place? How'd you get here?
Working for Hyatt International, putting bands together.
Talk to me. How'd that happen? Where were you prior to that? Wait, in the States, you lived in California. You lived on the East Coast, West Coast. Have you lived in between?
Washington D.C.
Oh, that's not in between. That's still the East Coast.
It's still the East Coast.
That's not it. I thought you said Montana. You said Montana.
No, never in the Midwest yet. I've thought about it. But I've always wanted to be on where I can see the Atlantic Ocean,
some
or
water.
the Pacific Ocean. I didn't want to be
landlocked. Yeah.
I don't want to be in Utah,
Oklahoma,
or Oklahoma.
Right. You didn't need any of that. So tell me, how old were you when you first came here to Japan?
I would say the first time I was here about 20. I was 29.
Okay, but what made you want to come here?
Well,
you said the Hyatt?
No, well, the first time, this is with this leg, the very first time I had worked for Franz Zeller, who was the general manager at Windows on the World. And that's when I first moved back. And he and I developed a good relationship, and eventually he moved from Hilton, and then he opened the Tokyo Bay Hilton at my home. So I get an email one day when email first began. I'm opening a cigar piano bar called Windows on the World. And get your booty over here and play piano for me. And I said, Franz, I'd love to come, but I said, make me an offer I can't refuse.
Really?
That's what I said to him. So he said, give me the details. He said, well, it's a 6-month contract. And I said, Franz, 6 months? That's a long time to leave New York. And I just released the first CD.
Okay.
But I said, I tell you what, I need to check first. If I stay 6 months, I got to see the environment where I'm playing and everything, because I don't want to leave 6 months. And he says, Greg, I'm delighted, but he says, I can't buy a ticket for you. But he said, if you get here, I'll take care of everything else. However long you want to stay, but you get here. So you take care of your airfare. And I said, oh, that's a great deal. So on my nickel, I bought a round trip ticket. So when I get to the airport, I'll never forget, I get to the airport in Narita. First time in Japan. There's no signs because they're going to know who I am, right? He picks me up in his private Jaguar, mint green. So his driver, that's how I left Narita first time. Wow. He was trying to impress me.
And he did. Huh?
Yeah, he did. So I stayed 5 days, and we, I saw all the outlets, so many outlets. And everything looks good. So when on the departure, I'm getting ready to leave. He says, did you make up your mind yet? And I said, well, I still don't know.
What year was this again?
This was 1999.
1999.
Yeah. And I said, when I get home, then I'll give you a decision. So I went home. I waited for about 10 more days. Finally, I got an urgent email. And he says, we need to know within the next 25 hours. Because if not, we have to decide on someone else. It takes time to prepare the visas and all the paperwork. And I said, why am I procrastinating? I said, Franz, I'm very sorry. I've been procrastinating, but I've decided to accept the engagement. And that's when I first came, 6 months.
1999.
Yeah.
Is that when you met your wife?
No, this was on the next leg.
Okay, so you stayed for how long? Just 6 months?
6 months, and I went back to the States, and then, needless to say, that's when things turned with 9/11 and everything happened. So I had to start traveling soon. And after that, I contacted an agent that was from Seattle, Washington, that was booking Hyatt globally. And he says, Greg, there's an opportunity comes up. I like your resume. I like what you've done. Put a New York band together, and there's an opening in Indonesia, Jakarta. So I put a great band together, went there for 3 months. Right when that contract was ending, we're opening another Hyatt in Roppongi Hills, this area. April, I'll never forget because it's the day before my birthday. April 25th, 2003. That's when Roppongi Hills opened. You probably remember. And so I put another band together. I went home for a short time. And I was supposed to be here 6 months, but the contract kept getting extended.
So it's a year now. Okay,
So
well,
3 years have
3
gone
years,
by,
okay.
and I'm still in Japan. And this is the time I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she a musician too?
No, she's in the medical field.
Okay.
We didn't actually meet there. It's a funny story because a lot of Japanese people are surprised about this story because she's there with a group of other doctors.
So she is a doctor?
Yep.
Okay.
So I was on the way home, loaded, after the gig, and carrying my dry clean because I used to live right down the street at Roppongi Hills. They finally moved me from the hotel, and I had my own place. It was plush and nice, just open. I said, why not stay? It's a great opportunity, and the band was great. So as I'm walking, I see this girl walking. She said, oh, konbawa. And she said, oh, konbawa. Oh, and she says, I enjoyed your performance tonight. And so she says, you didn't see me. I was way in the back with other doctors. She says, after dinner, we decided to have drinks here. But I saw you. And I says, oh, that's nice. So I reached in my bag and I said, oh, you might enjoy this. So I reached in the bag and so I gave her the CD. I said, oh, if you like it, please let me know how it is. I said, this is my first CD. I said, all the contact numbers, if you like it, let me know how the CD is. So a few weeks later, she writes and says, oh, I really enjoyed the music. I said, oh, thank you. If you have a chance, perhaps we can have tea or lunch or something. And that's how it started.
Yeah, so perhaps we can get married. So how many kids do you have now? Do you have kids?
2 daughters.
How old are they?
Now she just turned 16 and
16?
13.
The oldest 16 and 13. I saw pictures of you guys out in front of I think it's in front of your house. You have a house? Oh, it was in front of
Mansion. That was maybe a restaurant at that
That's
place.
Right. Your daughters, do they speak English and Japanese?
Of course, yeah.
Did you put them in international school or Japanese schools?
They're both attending Japanese school, private Japanese schools.
Okay. And you live in this area?
Yep.
Okay.
You're not far.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, why haven't you joined the American Club? Why haven't you joined the American Club?
I guess, I haven't had an opportunity to join.
Well, you do now.
I mean, I've heard some of my colleagues have done gigs here, and I've always thought, oh, man, that might be a good place to play. But I said, why not become a member?
Tell me about it, and especially for your kids, too. That's what I
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the kind of people they're around, and it's good for you, too, the kind of people you're around.
Hey, environment. We were very lucky. I became friends with the Ecuadorian Leonardo ambassador here years ago, because good friends of mine, we met at the palace, was giving a speech. He was teaching at Princeton University, and we all met. And his wife is very professor, and she fell in love. We had a very good, because she plays piano. Oh, we should get together sometime. And I said, and part of my work schedule and the kids' schedule in Japan is very difficult. But I looked at the window. I said, the best day for, I think, all of us would be Sunday, like a brunch or something. And for 3 years, we were meeting at their compound, at the Ecuadorian compound. Once a month, we would have an international brunch.
So did you play piano then, too?
She had a big grand there.
So
So we all played and sing and dance and ate. And it was fun. I mean, sometimes there's like 6 or 7 languages going on. Because she would invite some of her other friends and,
Right.
of course, Japanese.
Friends, right, of course.
But that was very nurturing for my daughters at that
That's good,
age.
that's good.
Because at the time, they were 3 and 5 years old. So
That's so good.
that was a good experience.
Let me ask you this, Greg. Before I end the podcast, I always like to ask a question. And I have a feeling you and I are going to be doing more podcasts together. If you could go back in time and you could meet the younger Greg and give him advice from what you know now, when would you go back and how old would you be?
I would like to probably have gone back just before this accident.
I said, man, don't put your finger down there.
Watch where you put your fingers, sir.
I like that. I haven't heard a better one than that. That's good. That's good. That's good.
No, but just slow down.
Slow down.
Think before you start making careless mistakes, because I preach that to my daughters and to the youth. Think about what you're going to do before you do it. Don't stick your fingers. Or if you do, working on any electronics or anything with moving parts, make sure it's turned off.
Great. Look, I want to thank you for the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wonderful. I want to thank all of you for watching the podcast. Make sure you press like and subscribe. And never forget, it's all on loan. So continue to reach for the stars because you're too blessed to be stressed.